I am Doug Friedman.
And I am Meredith Levy.
And this is Your Mental Breakdown,
the podcast.
Oh, yeah. With us, both licensed psychotherapists, and you, the listener, and the client. We are finally back with Drew. So after we chit-chat for a while, you will hear a real session. And then we'll come back on to break it down, because that's what we do.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
It sure is. Hi, Doug.
Hi, Mare. How you doing? How's the year treating you so far?
So far, great. My toe's still effing broken, and it really is. I'm trying so hard to not be annoyed.
Are you staying off it? Are you not exercising?
I am not exercising mostly, but I am not staying off of it. And I'm quite sure I'm making it worse.
Right.
And I'm so annoyed, and I'm annoyed that I'm annoyed because I want to allow myself to have these feelings. And I also want to remember, like, could be so much worse. I think it's the fact that it's such a little thing that is affecting my life so much that's actually pissing me off, you know?
That's what I said to you when it first happened. Teeth and toes.
Yeah.
Two things that are so small.
Yeah.
And still you can't get away with them. They're nonstop. They're always there.
Yeah.
Can't wait till I'm 80 and I have dentures.
I can't wait till you're 80 and have dentures either.
Yeah. Until then, I just keep brushing my teeth, flossing, and not seeing a dentist.
I got a bill or like a thing from my dental insurance saying, sorry, we're not covering any of this. The amount of times exceeded to get your teeth cleaned this year are too many.
Wow.
I was like, that can't be a thing. It's COVID. I haven't only gone a few times.
Wow. Already for 2021, you're cut off.
2021, exactly.
1 week in and you're done.
Okay, I meant for 2020, but sure.
I figured.
So how's Colorado? Is it cold?
It's still cold, yes. I mean, I'm fairly acclimated to it. I really like it. Like, I think I was talking to people in LA last week and they were saying, oh yeah, it's cold. And you said it the other day. You were like, it's 57 degrees. I'm like, wow, that's warm out here. That's like a really nice day out here.
So cold.
Although we have been getting a little bit of wind out here, as I've said before, I do not like. Fortunately, there isn't snow in the trees, because when it's windy and you have snow in the trees, then it feels like it's snowing all over again, but not in a fun way, in the way where it like smacks you in the face. But the house that I'm at has wind chimes.
Oh.
I want you to chime in your thoughts on wind chimes, because I think in theory, I love them. They're so wonderful and peaceful. And when I'm here and I hear them, I just want to fucking yank them off the rafters and throw them down the mountain.
Sure. Yeah. I've debated, I guess for this entire year, on getting wind chimes. And I don't know why I just didn't get them. And if I didn't like them, get rid of them. But same thing. I mean, look, what do they sound like when you're in a windstorm, when it's like torrential? Is it just them going crazy? I don't know that I've ever paid attention to that. But, you know, a little breeze, a little blowing here and there. Oh, lovely. But no, I don't want to sound like someone's fucking going crazy outside with like spoons.
I think there's tasteful wind chimes and there's over the top, like houses that have a ton of them is maybe a little much.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking just one.
Yeah. And I had one in my old house. It was a hummingbird with a little wind chime thing on it that I thought was really cool. And it made like very moderate noise, just enough to let you know it was there. But if I'm going to like a Zen tea garden and they have wind chimes there, then it's like awesome. Then I'm like, then I'm in the vibe and it's great.
Totally. All those Zen tea gardens I go to.
There used to be in LA 2 of them right near each other. Now we're not doing any of that.
Ugh.
Nope. There's a lot we're not doing much of.
I saw a thing on the Rose Bowl. That had to be moved, right?
Well, they're not going to remove the Rose Bowl.
You're such an a-hole. The game was not played there, right?
Oh, I don't know. I have not followed any of that.
Okay, forget it.
Yeah, sorry. You've got more sports knowledge apparently than I do in college football.
Well, that was it. I just heard on the radio.
Or did you not even know that was a college football game?
I knew. Well, now that you say it, I remember it's college, but I probably wouldn't have thought about it.
right?
I just knew it was like the second time ever in the history of whatever and blah, blah, blah. So don't know who was in it. Don't care. Just thought that would be a fun fact of how different the world is. But
a lot is different. Like exercise is different. I guess for you, it's double because there's the pandemic and there's your toe.
Yeah. I mean, can we find a different topic, Doug?
I've been called out because I say I haven't exercised in, years, but I hike every day.
You hike miles every day.
Right. But I used to exercise a ton. And I mean, I used to be an athlete, like going back to like high school days of growing up playing soccer. Oddly, I had exercise-induced asthma as a kid.
Oh my God, of course.
Like this. My high school soccer coach also had exercise-induced asthma, and he played water polo at UCLA at the time that he was coaching us in soccer. And he'd say, Doug, all right, listen, you got to get out here before everybody else and run and get it out of your system. It's like, okay. He's like, I want you out here running for 30 minutes before practice starts. And he was gnarly. Like we ran all the time. It was crazy. And I had, one of those Casio G-Shock digital watches with the stopwatch.
Yes, G-Shock.
Way back then, well, this was like what, 1963? When I think the calculator had recently replaced the abacus. But
yep.
So I had a stopwatch on my watch, which was cool. And he would say, like, I want to see 30, when I get here to practice, I want you to show me your watch and see that it has 30 minutes and that you've been running for that long. And you remember our old school, we had to walk to the park. So I would always walk to the park and have to get there like right after school. School ended, I think maybe at 2:50 and practice started at 3:30. So I had to hightail it over.
Couldn't you just start the timer?
It took me maybe 20 years to figure that out.
That you could have started the timer on the walkover?
Yep. I mean, I could have started it in the middle of class and just paused it.
Oh, good call. Yeah.
I could have done anything. I had no idea. I don't know.
Just a good kid.
A good kid? Was I?
I don't know if you were a good kid, like to your parents, but you were like a good person in school. You weren't like a dick or like
That's true. But I remember the same soccer field. We had to park at the park and walk over. And there was a little dirt lot that we could drive to and park in. And once I'd just gotten my car and I was showing off with one of the kids I was driving to soccer practice. And I was in the parking lot just doing donuts, like spiraling around in circles and having a great time, and skidded into like a parking spot. And we come out and a park ranger like flies over and comes out of his truck and starts cursing at me. Like, you asshole, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, whoa, and I'm 16 years old. Like, this is not that I hadn't heard that language, but
sure,
from a official looking guy, and he's scolding me and he's telling me he should haul me into jail and he should take away my license and all this stuff that he should do. And it doesn't really dawn on me until he starts writing me a citation that the most he could do is give me a parking ticket.
No. Oh my God. That's fucking hilarious.
He wrote me a parking ticket, and on the notes for the parking ticket, it says pulling donuts in the parking lot. And I'm pretty sure, being the jackass 16-year-old that I was, I fought it and said, that's not a parking violation.
That's amazing. That's when they used to write it on those yellow tickets, right?
Exactly.
That you actually had to send in. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
That's crazy. Speaking of tickets, would you like a ticket to come see my session with Drew?
I was like, where's he going with this? Doug, I would love a ticket.
God, can you imagine if people could come just hang out at a session?
That'd be so fucking epic. As long as it's not my session.
Would it be helpful or would it be too voyeuristic? I'm like thinking like...
Helpful to whom? The therapist or the client or both?
I was thinking the audience, like whoever would see it.
Oh.
Would it be helpful for people to get something out of it? And I think it would be helpful for the therapist because it would keep the therapist on their toes, knowing that people are watching. People have said to me, like, how can you, like, man, it takes such courage to like have a show where you're exposing yourself like that. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is what I do. This is how we do it.
Yeah. So you guys I know at some point we mentioned how I was going to have play one of my sessions.
Right. Uh-huh.
So what Doug is saying is the opposite for me. At some point I will. I just have to pick one that actually sounds like a therapy session, and I'm just kidding. I'll get back on that.
Yeah. And we all work differently. So I think selling tickets to a therapy session, I mean, I think you might have to pay people to come and watch it because it'd be excruciating or boring or, whatever it might be for them.
Not Others mine. You guys are paying me.
I know, totally. Like that some would really like it, but I think some clients would actually want people voyeuristically to watch what they're doing to get inside, and I don't think that's the right vibe. Plus I think one of the whole things of therapy is that it is confidential and that you have this private space to work out your innermost.
Oh yeah. 100% agree. Do you guys know this? I just want you to know this. You can basically tell your therapist anything. You can tell your therapist that on your way to your session, you murdered someone and dumped their body off in an alley. And we can't say anything to anybody at all. If you tell us tomorrow you're going to go murder someone and specifically who it is, then we can do something about it.
Yes, for the most part. If you murder somebody, put them in a dumpster and get into your therapy and say to your therapist, oh my God, it was such a rush. It felt great. I can't wait to do it again. That's like one of those iffy, like, well, they're a threat, but just a general threat to everybody, as opposed to it has to be a specific threat.
Yeah. Right? So either way, that's fucked up. So I hope that this doesn't give anybody the sense of freedom to go murder people and tell their therapist.
No, but if you are thinking about that, that might be something to tell your therapist and talk about and work out.
Oh yeah, please do.
I've had clients, like younger clients, sometimes teenagers, that will say, oh God, I just wanted to fucking kill him. And then they look at me like with the look of horror, like, wait, am I allowed to say that? Like, you can say anything. Like there's
totally
an expression and a legitimate like threat are different, and we can assess for that. They go, oh, really? And I said, yeah, watch, I'll assess for it. And then I'll ask them the follow-ups, and it totally like steals the thunder from them. And like, they like look defeated and deflated, and they go, oh no, don't really feel, no. Oh, okay.
Right.
Like, right. So there's no real homicidal intention or threat or anything. So no, don't have to tell anybody.
Speaking of murder. Just kidding, Drew.
Speaking of murder, check out the session. I killed it in there.
Oh, Dougie.
Oh, man.
So good.
So this session is coming up. Here it is.
It's coming up. Listen, we'll be back.
That's right. And we'll break it on down for you. We'll talk to you, see you. God, I always want to say that. We'll see you in a little bit. We won't. It's wild what we will accept and just as normal, right? Right? And just kind of go, oh, that's just the way it is. Okay. And we live with it. And we just think that's it.
Yeah.
And we don't even think other until many years later. Then we'll look back and go, holy shit.
Yeah. And it's crazy too. I think choice and obligation, throw that in there too. Because I mean, when I lived in my parents' house, I was a shit show and didn't do my laundry and you couldn't see my floor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, like, my shit's spotless.
Right.
Because it's mine.
Because it's my choice. But when they were making me do it,
I hated it.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
like pulling teeth.
Right. And thinking about it, like, as a young kid, I want all my clothes all over. You don't even consciously think.
I knew where it was.
Right.
So I wasn't losing anything. I didn't care.
Right.
It was crazy. People always told me once you get the clutter out of your home, it'll be out of your life. And it's so true. Right. Like, I cleaned my entire house last night. It was the first time last night when I actually cleaned my house and really got back into where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I woke up this morning and I was like, yes.
Yeah. Yes. I love that. I talk about this with dirty dishes, right? Mm-hmm. You'll probably know this pretty well.
Yep.
If you've got dirty dishes in the sink, it's so easy just to add another one.
Another spoon here, another plate there.
Totally.
Yeah.
It just piles up.
Right.
And every time you walk by it, if you're geared this way, which sounds like you are, there's a little bit of failure or I'm doing something wrong or that,
Absolutely.
you know, and it just feels bad and you see it, but you don't really look at it.
Mm-hmm.
When you actually do the dishes or like you cleaned your place last night, like when you actually do it, it doesn't take that long. You get it done and you have such a light feeling, this feeling of accomplishment, this feeling of like cleanliness, like the clutter. And like you said, is out of my place and out of my life, or at least out of my head.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny now that I don't know even how we got to here, but I now feel like I can translate what that means into my work life right now. Because it's like I have all these projects going on and I was super excited about it when I first started. And now it's piling up. And it's just getting to be too much. I'm in a weird spot where it's like, this is what I wanted, but this isn't what I want. And so I'm trying to figure out not how to exit. I don't think I want to exit yet. But I was talking to a guy last night, 2 nights ago, and I was like, dude, I don't even know if I'm going to stay in the fashion industry. Which was like a weird, like I heard myself say it. Yeah. And I was like, what are you saying? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And it was almost like I'm so cluttered right now. Yeah. That I don't even want to look at it. And so I'm just kind of like, man, I don't want to do this.
I don't want to do the dishes. I just want to remodel the kitchen. I just want to move to another apartment.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to be in the fashion industry. I think if we pare it down, it's I don't want to be in it this way with all this stress, all this pressure, all this clutter. And I'll go big for a second. We can bring it back down. That's a similar mentality when people say, I don't want to live. Yeah. What they really mean is, I don't want to live life this way, but I don't know any other way. Yeah. It's too hard to change. And if I have to change, it means I have to face how it is now. That's overwhelming.
And I think that's where I was at. I don't think I'm there anymore. I don't even think like that anymore. But I think I don't even know the right term for it, but the
suicidal ideation is when it's just the thinking about it. Yeah. Right. Like I remember the first time we met, you said suicidal ideology. Right. And that might have been just mishearing what the person said or whatever. It's interesting that you made that switch because an ideology is like a core belief, what you think of something, how you are. Right. And it was almost like you took that unconsciously as this is just a part of how I am because of my mom, because of my experience, because of this. And now even you just saying it like that, you're just like, I don't even know what that is, but that's not me. That doesn't fit.
Right. And I think maybe throw an asterisk on there because I heard it from a doctor. So I trusted that and I'm like, oh, okay. So this is my condition. And now growing and doing it and figuring it out for myself, I feel a lot more settled in that. There's never too much to run away from it completely now. And now it's to our line, it's not okay and that's okay. That's been like a huge shift too, to where it's like, it's okay. Yeah. You know, it's shitty, but it's okay. Right. And I think all of this has prepared me now. You know, next week I'll see my brother and his wife and the family and I'll bring the puppy home. And I think my big things are becoming a lot smaller. I think those big things used to be really overwhelming for me because now I'm knocking little things down at a time. It's not one big thing that I got to prepare myself for and not pay attention to anything else. So I think that was another thing I've been doing too, is like I would pay so much attention to one thing that I would forget everything else. And then I wouldn't nurture certain relationships, or I wouldn't progress in my career in a certain way, or I wouldn't make that phone call, or I wouldn't do something, or I would do something unproductively thinking that I should be doing this. And I've seen that shift too.
Yeah. There's like 10 things coming at you. That's overwhelming. Right. But if we move it and line it up one at a time, it's fine. And we can start knocking it out. Right. A sink full of dishes, fuck that. I don't want to do it. Buy new dishes and throw this out. Yeah. But one spoon, you can wash a spoon. A bowl, no problem. Yeah. It's managing it that way. A weird flip of that when there's so much that I have that I want to say, like, I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know, as you said, like where to begin, right? Because there's so many dishes and I look at that. What do I wash first? I don't even know what to wash. How do I, fuck it. I can't do any of it. It's paralyzing. And it's why I say start in the middle is just grab a bowl. A spoon, start washing. Once you got the hot water and the suds, you'll knock it all out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I think I took a lot more than I was ready for. I think me as a person, I'm a yes man. And so I'm learning how to say no in that regard and be okay with it. I'm not doing this job because I'm actually enjoying it. And I realized that.
Wow. Now that's different.
Yeah. Way different.
I was gearing up in my head, like, all right, we're going to do some work on how to curate the life you want with these projects. You have problem of abundance.
Right.
It's still a problem.
Right.
I have too much stuff. Let me just curate which projects I really want to work on and which people I like working with and figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
If the actual work, and there's the smile and the nod, if the actual work is not something I enjoy,
right.
I don't want to curate doing that.
Right.
I don't want to figure that out. I want to know, like, wait, maybe I don't like this. Let me see what else I can do and take my skill set, my creativity, my energy to something different.
Yeah, totally. I think I'm trying to figure out what my skill set is right now. Because I've always been, again, I got reassurance from other people in this world.
Right.
Of telling me I'm good in certain areas and lacking in other areas. I've never been like, oh yeah, I'm really good at this.
Right.
And even, it's funny, for the last 6 months, people have been like, well, what do you want to do? Like, what job do you want? And I'm like, I don't know. Tell me what there is. What are you offering me? What do you think I can do?
Right.
Not here's what I can offer. And so I'm trying to figure out, one, what's my long-term game plan as far as a job career? I don't want these projects for the rest of my life. Right. I think that too is really stressing me out, of not having a solidified job. It's just kind of like up in the air. I can do whatever I want, whatever I want to do, which is really nice to a certain extent. But the other half of that is too much. Like, it's too much.
You don't see the stability in that.
Right.
Project to project your entire life. Your eyes just bugged out. You're like, yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, fuck that.
But I'm not going to go work for the company, the man, and get my pension and do my thing. Like, I don't want that either.
Which is like, well, where's the in between? And that's the part where it's like, there isn't really one. It's
that we've found yet.
True. Yeah, that's fair. Now you go find it.
Yeah. And find it by virtue of, all right, well, wait, what do I like doing? And maybe you need to try a few things out.
I think that was the whole point of these last couple of months, that I haven't necessarily, I have done it. I've definitely tried different things and kind of explored a little bit, and I've definitely grown a lot.
Right.
But I haven't tried anything outside of the world I already know. And so now I kind of want to break out into that and kind of see what that looks like.
Wait a second, dude. You're talking about going into the unknown?
Right? Crazy. Yeah, and being excited for it too, which is the fun part now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take like a week or two and go home and just kind of like chill with my parents. I think these next couple of weeks are really going to allow me just to like reset. I'm hoping to go home and just be loved on. Because that's the other thing too. Like, having a puppy has really made me realize like how little I see people and go out and do stuff. And I think that's something I've been really missing for like the last couple of years.
Totally.
Companionship and having somebody there.
Absolutely. A lot of times animals are great for that. We have to remember that they augment, they don't substitute. Because if we use it as a substitute, similar to, I don't know how deep you got into video games, but people that are into the role-playing games and all that, they'll talk to their buddies online,
right.
They'll get into their characters, and they'll just want to plug in. And they won't necessarily go out and socialize. And that's okay, you can do that. But there's something that we miss, that type of connection. And like you said, I mean, you phrased it as just be loved on.
Yeah.
There's an element of touch in that too, like tangible, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because I was a gamer to a certain extent, but I used to play Call of Duty. That was my thing. And we'd get on like an Xbox Live,
right?
Get in a party, and
sure,
and we have exclusive parties that only certain people would get into and do all that thing. And like thinking back on that, you really feel like you're in a clique. But I was playing with kids I'd never met before.
Absolutely. All across the country.
I don't even know what they look like.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so like all I hear is a voice in a game. And I kind of feel like that's where I'm at right now. Like, I'm in a party chat and I got people around me for sure. Pretty good people, honestly.
Right.
But I don't feel the connection with that. Not yet.
And do we know what that would be?
I think I need to find it in myself first. I need to figure out what it looks like for me in a relationship standpoint, not in like a long-term, like a boyfriend-girlfriend situation, but just like a friend relationship.
Sure.
Of what do I need out of that? And that's what I don't know right now. And I'm trying to figure out.
I mean, you're a different person now. Your need is different. And there's an excitement about it that comes, I think, from embracing the process of knowing yourself.
Yes.
Not from actually knowing yourself and going, this is me, this is what I want, this is...
So I love the process. The process is fun. Yeah. You know, and I think I'm learning a lot more. I feel like I say this maybe every week, but I think I'm learning a lot more now than I ever have. You asked me 6 months ago, like, what I think is like successful. And I would say a job, a family, you know, like those king caboodles, the normal American dream.
Sure.
And now I mean, I'm really happy right now, like overall.
Yeah.
And I don't really have a job. My parents are really helping me for my apartment. And like on paper, like I'm not doing anything I would say is successful, but I'm happier now than I ever have been.
And I think that idea of success now, you're setting yourself up to know yourself, to really find, I would say, fulfillment, not just success.
Yeah.
Now, I have people in here sometimes with 7, 8 figure salaries, and they have success. And I've literally had one guy go, my success, I'm at a 9, but I want to get it to a 10. I want your help to get me to a 10. Like, okay, I can do that with you. Where's your fulfillment meter? He goes, huh? Like, all right, fuck the success meter. We're not even going to talk about that. We're going to look at fulfillment. And if we can bring that up, even to like an 8, 7 or an 8, I guarantee that 9 is going to flip to a 10 on the success meter without even looking at it.
Yeah.
What you're describing now is, wait, I'm experiencing a little bit of success in terms of the projects that I'm getting, what I'm working on, and can start busting my ass and really doing it. Wait a second. It's not fulfilling. It's not what I want to be doing right now. Certainly not how I want to be doing it. And that's where, okay, the things that my parents are helping me out with, the things that are being taken care of, that doesn't mean I'm not successful. It means I'm getting support while I find and experience fulfillment.
Yeah, I think, so I mean, we even talked about like my parents helping me and like how I didn't like that. And now I'm getting to a point where I'm realizing that I am being supported. I'm not being crutched. And I'm seeing the difference between the two.
How are you seeing it differently now?
I'm not trying to take from my parents,
right?
You know, because like if they weren't helping me, I would figure out a different way to do it. But they're giving me the ability to right now genuinely go out and figure out who I am and be there for people in the way I want to be.
Yeah. There's a big difference between a crutch and support, right? And that crutch, people need crutches when they can't walk and maybe something's broken. There are times when we need crutches. You don't have a broken leg right now.
Right.
You can walk. And what you're looking for is, I don't want to just walk. I want to do backflips and somersaults, and right? So I want to thrive, not just survive. And for that, I need some support.
Yeah.
I'm not going to then take that support and go smoke a bunch of weed and play Call of Duty and 2K every day, all night. I'm not going to turn it into a crutch.
Right.
It won't enable me to just do nothing. It will enable me to explore and grow and be this. And then it's not about repaying parents. It's doing something you said was important to you before. I want them to be proud of me. So I'll ask you now, how do you think they would see you in terms of feeling proud?
I think they're extremely proud now. I think the wedding really brought that to life because they were proud of me just for me, and nobody wanted anything from me, and it wasn't anything like that.
Right.
It was just genuine. This is my son. And I was like, hell yeah. All right, cool. And that allowed me to really embrace who I was without feeling like, oh, I had to live up to a certain expectation. And that was genuinely like one of the best things for me as far as like self-confidence too.
Yeah.
Because I realized that I can be doing anything. I can work at McDonald's and I would have had the same conversations that I had. And that was really cool.
Totally.
I like that a lot. Once the wedding was over and we went to the reception and everybody started drinking and dancing and doing their thing, and it got hot. So I definitely lost the jacket and dropped a couple of buttons. And I rolled the sleeves and like really I really got into like...
You showed?
Yeah, I got into my element. And like that was fun too, because people were enjoying it because they were like, oh, this is who you are. This is a rented tux, but like, okay, cool. Like I feel it. So totally.
Right. Yeah. And that was me being me.
Totally. And I think the whole positive, negative thing, the red car, white car, something I've been practicing a lot. And even my what ifs, you know, when I play the what if game now, I'll get mad at myself and I'll play like the bad what ifs, like the way I usually do. I'm like, all right, well, throw a good what if in there then. It's been really nice.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've allowed myself to be more positive in the unknown versus going into the unknown super negative.
Yeah.
That's where I was. I would prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And now I'm just hoping for the best.
Yeah.
It's just like...
Which feels good.
So I'm already prepared.
Right. There you go.
I'm already there.
I love hearing this from you because it's something where I see it as you're recognizing your own strength that's already there. You're just tapping into it and allowing it to come out more and trusting it. All of these unknowns that used to scare the crap out of us, out of you.
Yeah.
I now embrace because I know I'm good. And if something's not good, I'm still okay. And walking through that, even when you talked about mom a while ago, like, yeah, I don't have to go out there and rescue her. I don't feel that same way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't feel like I have to rescue her, but I still want to go check on her.
Absolutely. I mean, you said it earlier. You're like, yeah, I want to check on my mom, make sure she's okay, make sure her brother's okay. And I don't think that's you putting on the cape to do that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I don't feel that way anymore.
No. And maybe we could say it almost a flip of what we've been talking about in terms of the crutch. It's I want to go out there and not be my mom's crutch.
Yes.
I could be some support for her if she'll take it to lift herself and elevate herself, but I'm not going to be her crutch. Right. So if she's stumbling, I'm not going to be the thing that she props up on. Right?
Yeah, totally. I think the last couple of times I've gone back home, I've been going back for me, which has been really nice. I can go back and do what I need to do and not feel like I need to sit by her side and take her out and take her everywhere I go.
Right. I'm learning what it's like to be there for somebody and give support without it becoming crutch, so they don't lean on me entirely. And okay, I've got to navigate that a little bit.
And I like being the crutch.
Feels good. Somebody's leaning on me. Like, great, lean on me.
Yeah. But awesome. That's another thing, the line of things that I just can't handle right now.
Right.
It was nice to realize that and not be upset about it. I was still like, I'm like, okay, no big deal. Like, it is what it is. And so it was just relieving to not feel like I needed all these crutches in my life across so many different levels. Made me realize that I needed to separate myself from people. I didn't know how yet.
Yeah.
And progressively.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, I've just flashed on the shift from my big brother-ish, year and a half, not really, right? To friend. As, there's the guy that's got my back, especially with the bully at school and that, right?
Absolutely.
Like, cool. And then, oh, wait, and he's ODing? And he's rolling with these kids. Hang on, wait, maybe that doesn't fit for me.
Right.
And it's being that kind of chameleon and being able to do anything anywhere and be that way, right? And fit in with whoever I'm in with. I can do that. I will lose a sense of myself if I do that too much. And I think you've got a stronger sense of yourself now.
I think I lost myself for a while.
Yeah.
Like for majority of while I've been here.
Yeah. And I would even say earlier than that, it was less that you lost yourself and more that you didn't have to find yourself. Because I have these crutches. I have these people, these friends, the support that I can lean on, and parents and places I can lean on. So I don't have to grow or evolve, and that's nice, right? And sometimes that really is nice. We want that.
It's easier.
Totally.
It's way easier.
And then we move further along in life and we actually realize, oh wait, that's not easier. It's harder because it just allows more shit to pile on top of itself. And I'm somewhere underneath all that shit and I have to peel all that off to find me. Which is in a sense what you're doing now. Yeah.
And right? I think we're peeling in a big way, more so over the last couple of weeks than ever. For example, my homeboy stayed in this weekend with me, and I'm very okay with people staying the weekend with me. My house is your house. Whatever you need, I got you. No big deal. But just have a little respect for me and my stuff. I then was like, okay, man, listen, like you need to take care of your shit. This is not your house. You need to really pick up. I have a puppy here and he's going to get through all your shit and you could hurt him. And now you're putting his life in danger. I'm not doing that. So you can either pick up your shit or you can go. And that was like a really big thing for me. Yeah. Because I've never been able to like stand up in a firm way. I've always been like, hey, you think you can pick that up? Maybe. Right. If not, it's okay. I'll do it. So it was nice to be able to bring that back into knowing myself and what I want in my house and not letting other people push me around. Absolutely. Just recognizing that you have that, that gear and you're able to do that. And again, practice and see what that's like. I'll tell people sometimes, I'll give them permission to be an asshole, right? Because on the spectrum of things, uber passive and like, I'll just do everything for everybody and forget myself. And then on the other end of that is being an asshole, right? Because we're just dictating and telling people how it is and what they need to do. And it's a spectrum and finding it. If we've been that kind of passive and taking care of others, not thinking of myself and sacrificing for so long, then anything other is going to feel like we're an asshole and it's not okay. Like, oh my God, how could I tell these people to pick up after themselves? Like, what? Oh no, I'll just do it. It'll be fine. And that becomes stressful and harder
as soon as we give ourselves sort of permission to be an asshole, we move on that spectrum. And you might actually sound like an asshole sometimes. Okay.
Fair.
But then we can bring it back and calibrate it to find where it fits. And I think the way that you were doing it sounds fine. Sounds actually really good, especially for somebody who isn't used to voicing things that way.
Yeah. I always feel like people hate me because of it. I always get into arguments and I'm always the people pleaser to not get in arguments. So why even get there in the first place?
Yeah.
This is the first time where it happened. And he was like, oh yeah, for sure. And then like you could like his demeanor changed and respected me and almost looked up to me in a sense of like, oh shit, he does have his life together.
The spirit of it came out as a boundary more than a rule.
Yeah.
You weren't saying, dude, you can't do this. You need to change if you're going to be here. More so what I heard was, this is my house. Here's how it is in my house. Here's my boundary. That's a strength, knowing I know what my space, I know what I am like and what's okay with me. That's the boundary. And having a good sense of that, cool.
Which has made this holiday season so much better. I think now that I have boundaries and I can go into this Christmas season knowing where I stand, not thinking I know where I stand or having an idea. Like I know where I stand and I'm excited to go home. That's another new thing for me. Excited to go home to be home, not excited to go home to get something out of it.
I don't think I've thrown this line on you yet. Maybe I did around Thanksgiving. It's if you think you're enlightened, go home for the holidays, right? Because it will challenge us. You will be home and you will probably, knowing you, get mad at yourself for slipping, get frustrated, sad. It might go inward, it might go outward. I don't know.
Yeah.
If we can recognize all of that, whenever that happens, just going, all right, because this is where it all started. This is ground zero. And just note those places, those times, those ways that you are. You don't have to like eradicate them. You can course correct a little bit. Sometimes it's hard. It's going to be a challenge for some of those. It can also just be an adventure. Like, all right, that's how they see it. I know who I am.
Well, and that's kind of how I see it. I see it more as me and Doc's first adventure together and going on a trip and seeing how that goes. And that's my number one priority going home now. Not, I got to go take care of my mom.
Right.
It's almost a distraction, which is really, really nice and what I need right now. Because I don't feel like I'm going home. I feel like me and him are going home on a vacation together, not...
Yeah.
We're coming home for the holidays. Oh, fuck, what's going to happen?
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's the adventure spirit. It is, in a sense, a distraction. Sometimes the emotional support animal that you need on a plane is if I don't have that distraction, I'm freaking out. I have all this anxiety come and I don't know how to do it. But if I'm looking at my dog, I'm taking care of him. I can get through it.
So I'm really excited to kind of see where this goes. And I don't know if it's going to stress me out or if it's going to make things easier, but I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's the spirit. I don't know. Yeah. And I'm embracing that. It's going to be different.
Yeah. Because, I mean, we're all set up. We got what we need. I got his little carrier. I got his poop bags and, like, treats and food. And we're good. You know, it's just a matter of doing it now.
It's about you.
Hell yeah.
Dig it. And we are back with you.
Here we are.
Break it on down. Let's do it. Bring it on. What do you got?
Okay. So the session starts out with one of my favorite topics ever, which is clutter in your house. He was talking about his closet, and clutter just for me is not good for me at all. And I take it a little too far sometimes, just in terms of like my organizing and stuff, but it really, I don't know. There's so many different sayings, but more cluttered your environment, the more cluttered your mind. I'm sure Doug has an amazing one.
Yeah. Cleanliness is next to godliness.
That's not the one I was thinking.
I knew
but
you would not like that one.
So, yeah. Okay. So I work with my clients on this all the time. A lot of people have a really hard time with organization and getting rid of things. And I understand. And it's like a thing, I think, to just break down slowly sometimes. But your analogy, loved it. Said something about the dirty dishes. And it's so easy to add another one every time you walk by. And every time you walk by, there's a little bit of failure, right? And when you clean, it feels so good. And I said something about, I don't want to do the dishes at this point. They're so overwhelming. I just want to move. I just want to buy all new dishes and throw them away.
Yep. Totally.
That is totally understandable, by the way.
The great irony in all this is you actually do your dishes. Sometimes it takes you like 15 minutes and you finish and you feel so great. And most people, like right in that moment, will go, wow, that was so much easier than I thought. And I feel so great. Right. I should always do this. And that, believe it or not, is going to reinforce failure. I should always do this. So then every time you don't, you're failing.
Yep.
Right. It's just remembering, gosh, it feels so great when I have a clean sink. I really love this feeling.
Totally. I've learned, over time it ebbs and flows, but really, really making the move into this house, because I was at my last place for 15 years. I did the sort of like Marie Kondo folding for all my clothes, and I have an obscene amount of clothes. And so 95% of the time I put my clothes back after I fold them, or I just put them right back in their spots in the drawers and everything so that it doesn't build up, because that's the overwhelm.
Totally. Yeah. It's so easy to just add one more. That's why if you use a bowl and a spoon for breakfast, it's so easy with a dirty sink to just leave it there. If you wash, even with a dirty sink, that one bowl and that one spoon, you didn't add to it.
Right.
But nobody thinks that way. You just like go, whatever.
Yeah, I clean as I go.
Which is important. And when we talked about this on here a long, long time ago, when we were working for community mental health and had to do all those notes for the county.
Oh, yeah.
The best advice I got was just do your current notes. Don't worry about catching up.
Yeah.
Because if you have 81 notes that you need to write.
Which you did.
I did. Well, I had more than that. I had a lot more than that, actually.
Oh, my God.
But I did 81 in one day and I think 53 the other day.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. However, the point is not how bad I was at that, which I was. It was if you stay current and don't add to it, then what you have in the past, that's the buildup, is finite.
Yep.
And then you're creating a good habit for actually doing it as you go along.
Right.
So when and if you do catch up, then you're in a great position to maintain.
And I think a lot of people can relate to all of these things. It's finding that middle path. So I clean as I go when I'm cooking dinner, which is fine, except for if I'm cooking dinner for someone and they're there, I'm like, I'll be right there just doing the dishes, and it's annoying.
Right.
And so finding that middle path sometimes I think is important. But I think Drew brought up that this translates into his work and how things are piling up and how things are so cluttered, he doesn't even want to look at it.
Right.
Then I guess he busted out with that he didn't even know if he wanted to stay in fashion, or was it just he didn't want to stay in fashion the way it is, the way he was doing it, right? Was kind of the question.
Right. And that's something that's, I think he mentioned it in here, even when he talked about suicidal ideology, right? Mm-hmm. Which is not what it's called for us, but what I was actually using it for is to show that there is an ideology that's built in based on what's around you,
right,
and what you learn. And for him, part of what I was getting out of him from this session, from even that moment, was what we learn is when things are overwhelming, when I do have too many dirty dishes in the sink, I just want to move.
Right.
I just want to blow it up and start over somewhere.
Totally.
In 12 steps, they call it a geographic. I just want to go somewhere else.
Right.
Well, it's going to follow you around.
Right.
That's something I think that's in a lot of us. It gets ingrained in us that we just need a new start. I need a fresh start. My reputation at this school sucks. I need to go to a new school where I have no reputation, start over.
Right.
That starting over is huge. And we can do that. I mean, we sort of, in a sense, could say we do that for New Year's, but for what he was experiencing, what he was talking about, like, I don't want to be in fashion. I kind of look at it as, what is it about how you're doing it? Who's around you, what the environment is, what the work is, what your thoughts are, what don't you like about it? Because that we can change. You don't have to leave fashion to change it. However, you might actually not like fashion anymore and want to be out. That could be true too.
Right. And I think I was a little confused. I don't know if anyone else was, but at some point he said he took on too much work. And then I kept rewinding because I wasn't sure if he said, I'm not doing this job because I'm actually enjoying it, or I'm doing this job because I'm actually enjoying it. I didn't really know what he said, but he then led into trying to figure out what his skill set is and what's his long-term game plan, and that he doesn't want to do projects for the rest of his life. And I guess since I don't think we know a ton about what he does, but I think he probably is saying he doesn't want to do projects for other people.
Yeah, that was closer to it. And that's something I think we can all relate to when you're working on something that's someone else's thing.
Right.
It's not yours. You can take pride in your aspect of it.
Right.
But you might not have that same pride of ownership of it.
Right.
And what he was saying was, I'm not doing this job because I'm enjoying it. And I realized that. It's finding what you are enjoying and being able to do more of that, or finding aspects that you enjoy and focusing on that.
Right.
And I think for him, he's talked about it different ways, about wanting to go out on his own and do his own thing. Okay. And then if doing his own thing is not enjoyable, there might be aspects of that aren't enjoyable. Like maybe you would rather work for a parent company or something like that, you know?
Yeah. And he talked about how he basically can do whatever he wants right now. And it's super overwhelming. And I can so relate to that. After I left being a lawyer and I went to treatment and I got out, basically the world was my oyster. I could do anything I wanted. I could have started a business. I could have and it was almost another year before I started school. So during that time, it's like, great, you can do whatever you want. And that is so overwhelming. People think like, oh, that's amazing. You can do whatever you want. You have the freedom, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, the world is my oyster, but how do I even start? What do I like? What do I do? That is overwhelming. I can 100%. He was saying going into the unknown, it's scary and it's awesome.
Right.
Like you were saying, he thinking about breaking these big things down into little parts.
Yeah. And then that's kind of what you're describing, is some people call it the paradox of choice. Mm-hmm. When you have too much choice, there's a paralysis there.
Right.
Like I have too much, I can't do it. In fact, I was talking to somebody about being where I am in Colorado. And I said, it's so weird. I'm so used to, like, if I want something in LA, there's 25 of them. I'm in the next block. Here, there's only one.
Right.
And the person was like, yeah, but wouldn't that be nice that you don't have to worry about the choice, that there's just one?
Yep.
Like, I guess, like, sometimes I think it's a trade-off sometimes.
Total trade-off. Yeah, 100%. Oh, then first of all, he talks about how he was going home next week with his puppy to see his brother. And I was like, what? That's crazy. He just came back. But then he was talking about his puppy, and he was saying, which was super cool to hear him say, he didn't realize, his puppy made him realize how much he doesn't spend time with people. And you said, I love all the things you said, I just can't ever remember them. You said animals augment, not replace.
Yeah.
Good one, because we can get very wrapped up in animals replacing.
Yeah. And it's not just augmenting or replacing, but it becomes a substitute for our own lives. We live for our animals.
Right.
I've been guilty of that with the dogs that I've had, where, I go for hikes for them, and a lot of, whether or not I leave the house or what I do depends on them.
Yeah.
And we have to remember, it's just a dog. I hate saying that.
Of course.
I anthropomorphize my dogs. They're family.
No, I'm the same. I have no problem. I mean, of course, I feel like when I leave the house or my sister's house and the dogs are staring out the window, which they do every time, I'm like, oh. Ugh. And I also have no problem. I'm not going to like change my plans for the night because they may be alone. Like, obviously
I used to.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
Franklin would howl and wail and cry when I left sometimes. And it was gut wrenching. It's so hard. But I think the bottom line is you have to have your own life.
Yep.
Even in a partnership that's not a dog, that's your partner.
Yep.
You have to have your own life. And a lot of couples that I work with and some individuals will fight me on this and go, no, but we want to do everything together. Like, you need to be an individual.
Yeah, good for you. That sounds horrible to me.
You fell in love with each other as individuals. So remembering that and being individuals, It goes back to the Missing Piece books, which we reference.
Yeah. And then Andrew did start talking about relationships, and he said he doesn't want one yet. He has to like find it in himself. Like, what does he need to get out of relationships? And that he's such a different person now, and he's embracing the process of getting to know himself. And he was saying the process is fun.
Yeah.
I was like, cool.
Oh, I loved hearing that. And it not being a destination, like the destination isn't, yes, I am now a well-adjusted person, or yes, I now have a marriage and 2 kids and the white picket fence. It's, I am continually working on myself. And I like this process of reflecting and introspection. And it doesn't always have to be hard and difficult.
Totally. Yeah. And he talked about being happier than he's ever been, even if he's not successful. And I get what he means. I think we have to look at our definition of success. You talked about success versus fulfillment.
Yep.
And I think it's all of that. I think also success and fulfillment may be the same thing. They may not for you.
Right. And it's important exactly for you. It's important to get that definition for your client. Like what is their definition of it? What does success and what does fulfillment mean to you? And I think people in general are so driven by success and they look towards that and they measure things that way that they forget the fulfillment part. Even on social media, a lot of my clients, I talk to them and actually friends too, when I talk to them about what's a quote unquote, I'm air quoting here, good post.
Right.
And they'll measure it by how many likes they get.
Right.
Like, really? So however many people double tapped your picture, that's how successful and that's how good your post was.
Right.
What about the fulfillment aspect? What about how you felt? And they tie in how they feel to how it was received. Like, okay, but then what are the comments?
Right. And again, I think defining what success means to you is important because I can say I'm totally geared towards being successful, but for me, success is not just financial by any means. Right. But you guys talked about his parents helping him and how that doesn't mean he's not successful. He's getting support while he's getting experience and finding fulfillment, and the difference between being supported and being crutched and like having a crutch. And I think, right. The difference, same thing is like, are you being supported or enabled? And I think,
totally.
There can be a fine line. There cannot, you said people need crutches when they can't walk. I was like, oh my God. So insightful. It's like, if your leg's not broken, you just need support and don't want to take advantage of it. And it's different looking at his parents and his mom and is he being a crutch for her and all that stuff I thought was.
Yeah. And that ties into what we've talked about, you and I, a lot, I think, on here, is that it's not a sign of weakness to ask for help. It's a sign of strength. It's knowing where you need support and where you need help.
Totally.
And that's, I think, a sign of the strongest people are those that know their weaknesses or know areas where somebody else might be stronger, where they need some help, and they ask for it and get it. And then you have the best product. I mean, I was talking to a musician client of mine once and was saying, look, you can go in the studio and you can play the drums. They're not going to be very good, but you can do it. You can also play the keyboards. And he was a guitar player and singer. Yeah. And you can sing all the harmonies. You can record your entire album yourself. You can also hire professional musicians that are fantastic at these specific things, and you can have the best sounding album, best sounding songs, that you couldn't do on your own.
Right.
And it sort of clicked for him, like, right, because I'm the one that wrote it, it's mine, but having them play on it doesn't take away from my talent or my gift or my creativity or what I'm doing. And he started to see it as a strength to pull in some of his friends and people that he knows that are great musicians to play on his album. And it became something wonderful rather than trying to prove it to himself that he could just do it all.
Yeah. And I think he brought up how the last few times he's seen his mom, he doesn't feel like he has to be around her nonstop. And he need to let her lean on him entirely, that he can just give her support and hold boundaries at the same time.
Right. And that's the other thing too, is you have to, when you're asking for support, people might say no. We have to allow for that. It doesn't mean that they don't like us or don't believe in us or don't want to support us. They might not be able to.
Totally. At some point, he talked about fitting in with people, how before he would just try to fit in, he lost himself sense of self. I don't know why I can't talk, like losing his sense of self.
Right.
And I talk to my clients a lot about that, the chameleon thing. And I think it's important to look at the two distinctions there, or maybe there's more than two. But for me, I am always myself at the core and who I am. And I can also relate to a lot of different people and a lot of different things and topics. And so if I am around a bunch of therapists, it's one thing. And if I'm around a bunch of teenagers, like my niece and all her friends, I mean, I'm not saying the same thing as I'm saying as a therapist, but I'm not a chameleon. I can just relate to I'm not morphing into whoever I'm around. I can just relate. And even if I can't relate per se, I'm still going to be myself. And if I'm around some like NASA scientist, I'm going to ask a million questions prefaced by, I have no idea what I'm talking about. Right. So I think it's important to look at, we can be all sorts of different parts of our whole. And that doesn't mean we're being a chameleon. When you don't have a sense of self and you try to be like them, I think that's the difference.
Exactly. I think one of the things I love about you is that you know when you don't know something, and you have no problem saying, wait, explain that to me. Wait, I don't get it.
Right.
Where we get in trouble is not when we try to sound like a bunch of NASA scientists or a bunch of therapists or a bunch of teenagers. Well, maybe we get in trouble when we try to sound like teenagers. Yeah, I am so not fire when that happens. But it's when we pretend we're something we're not, when we're trying to be something we're not. If I start talking to NASA scientists about escape velocity out of a black hole and what we need to do, like and what I just said to you, is the extent of my knowledge of that.
Sure.
Right. So it will expose me and I'll feel awful and you'll feel all this pressure to keep it up. As soon as you just know what you know and know what you don't, and you can be yourself, which you do beautifully, Thanks. It becomes easier. And he had a great experience. I'm glad we talked about it before the wedding because he came back and we made reference to it of what he was wearing and how he was. Yeah. And he was like, I was just myself. That's right. I was just there as me.
Totally.
And that was, something that was, I think, one of his greatest strengths in being there that he was able to show to himself is I was already prepared by virtue of who I am and how I am, not because I was rehearsing all these things to say or how I was going to answer people and what I was going to do.
Yeah, no, I thought that was great. One of the last things he brought up was he talked about, I think he had a friend that was over, and normally he really doesn't get his needs met. He doesn't ask for what he wants. He doesn't hold boundaries with people. They can do whatever, shit all over the house. Right. Not literally shit all over the house, but at some point he just like firmly and used his voice and set a boundary, and it wasn't a confrontation. It was effective communication. And he asked for what he wanted from his friend. I think it was like clean this shit up, or I don't remember. Is that what it was? Something.
Yeah.
And his friend responded, fine.
And that's having that boundary and naming it. And it was like, hey, it was a friend that was staying with him. He was just like, you got to pick up your shit if you're going to stay here. This isn't your house, So I've got a puppy here. You can't have your stuff lying around because you're going to get into it. So you got to do something about it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like charged up. Like it wasn't mad at the friend and scolding him. He wasn't necessarily giving him a rule. Like you need to do this differently. In a sense, it might've sounded like he was, but he was like, yeah, I can't have this in my house with a puppy here.
Yeah, this is what I need. So
exactly. It was coming from me.
And that's the thing, something I work on a lot with clients too, is just using your voice, asking for what you need, setting and holding boundaries. It is not a confrontation.
Yep.
Even if you know the person's not going to be happy, it's still not a confrontation.
Right. Even if it's not about the other person. Sometimes it's about us. Yeah. When we feel like, especially for Drew, like thinking, oh, wait, I need them to be okay. Yep. I need to do that. I can't. No, I couldn't possibly tell somebody not to leave stuff on my floor or whatever.
Yeah.
And I said this to him in the session, giving yourself permission to be an asshole.
Yep.
You're not really, you're just going to sound like it to you because you're used to being so submissive and letting people, like you said earlier in this, Meredith, like walk all over you. Right.
Yeah.
So if you give yourself that permission, then you can calibrate it. It's just being able to say what you need. And hopefully it doesn't come out with too much force, but you can also just recognize, well, I haven't really spoken up for my needs before, so I don't know how this is going to come out.
Yeah.
Here's what I need.
Yeah. And there's times where I try to be funny about it. Like had an ex who thought there was a magic fairy who was going to put the milk away in the fridge or whatever. And I would say to him, like, hey, do you know where the magic fairy is that's going to put your milk away? Because I don't see her. And there's a time to definitely, if that kept happening over and over, of course, I'd be like, listen, this is important to me. This is a boundary I'm setting. But
yeah. And I think sometimes in relationships, people value things differently. And the mistake that we make is trying to get them to now have your value.
Totally.
Rather than having him understand that you have a different value. It might not be important to him, but if he recognizes it is important to you, so he will respect that. He doesn't need to change what's important to him. He just needs to show that you're important to him.
Exactly. Yep, totally. And I think the last thing Drew said, which I thought was awesome, was that going home, he's like, he doesn't think like, oh shit. He thinks, oh, I'm going on a vacation. I was like, damn.
Yeah. And I love that he's bringing his puppy with him, because there were times past, and you heard this in other sessions, when he was going home, and even when he had a girlfriend and was gearing up to go to the wedding or the bachelor party, he was worried about how it was going to be with that girlfriend, right? How's it going to go? And how do I curate this? And how do I do this?
Right.
He's not doing that with the puppy going to see his family.
Right.
He's just going, yeah, I'm just going.
Right. Totally.
And I happen to have a puppy.
Yep.
It's cool.
Yeah. I'm so excited to hear what's next. I'm glad we're up and running Drew again.
I know. We've been away from sessions for a while. I mean, I haven't. I've been
yes,
doing sessions this whole time, but we as the podcast have been away from this for a while. And I think it's nice coming back to it. I kind of miss talking about Drew in his sessions. I don't know if you guys miss it, but it's sort of like missing a couple weeks of therapy. Like, ooh, now I come back and there's all this stuff. Right?
I know. Yes.
Yeah. And it'll be fun because next week is when he comes back from seeing his family for Christmas and how that goes and what's going on with him.
And then in the interim, you'll hear our mini-sode.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
Coming up on Mondays.
Our little chit chat.
Our Monday minis. Ooh, I can say it now. I couldn't say it last week. I was having so much trouble getting that out.
Yay.
Yeah. So stick around for our Mondays. Listen to us on Thursdays and every single day in between. Blow us up on social media. We love it.
We love your questions and thoughts and comments and emails and all that. So.
Oh, yeah. I saw some good comments about what people's intentions were for 2021.
Yes.
That was nice.
Yeah, totally.
Maybe we'll read some of those on the mini.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. How about
Yay.
that? All
okay.
Right. In the meantime, hang in there. Insert catchphrase here.
And bye.
Bye.